Senator Olekina.
Mr. Speaker, sir, there is something called the doctrine of separation of powers, and each house has got its powers that has been gifted by the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, sir, you gave a very clear direction to the Committee on Security. I think we'd be failing in our duty if we can entertain such excuses as the Cabinet Secretary is on a 10-day leave. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Constitution is very clear. Article 125 gives this House the same powers as a court of law. So I don't understand how a committee sitting can be able to request for the Cabinet Secretary to appear, and then we get such frivolous responses. I think it's about time that we behave mature as a country, and we have to respect each other. Mr. Speaker, sir, we're just from Kitengela, where we were able to see what our friend was going through. His own vehicle, they remove all the fuel from the vehicle so that he cannot enter. You know, his power, they decided to disconnect it. Water, they decided to disconnect it so that they can actually intimidate. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, I think it will be very wrong for us to proceed any further before your directives have been complied with. Mr. Speaker, sir, I would have been very happy if your directives were very clear. And I remember Senator Orengo telling you before we adjourned that you've got to be specific and you use your powers. Mr. Speaker, sir, that's a very powerful position you're sitting on there. And we're here now writing history that this House must be respected. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, I don't even see if the Cabinet Secretary will not comply. You know, if all these other departments will not comply, I don't see the reason as to why we should sit here. I think that should be the first order of business. That should be, we should even convert the entire House into a committee of the whole, and then we deliberate on this issue. And then you give further directions. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, this is a matter which is very serious. And I want to beseech you to really be firm. History will judge you harshly, Mr. Speaker, sir, if you let this fly.
Senator Kindiki.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for this opportunity. I want to thank the chairperson of the Security Committee for the report. Mr. Speaker, however, that report is extremely underwhelming. It actually makes a big joke of this House and the institution of Parliament. Mr. Speaker, I am here on Standing Order 105, read together with Standing Order 60, which allows any senator to move a motion without any notice. And this motion is moved under paragraph H of Standing Order 60, read together with Standing Order number 1, Mr. Speaker, which gives you vast powers on procedural issues. Mr. Speaker, today is a sad day for our country. Let me go direct to the point. We have no business being here discussing anything. If the senator for Kakamega, Cleophas Malala, the senator for Bomet, Dr. Lagat, and the senator for Samburu, Dr. Stephen Lelewe, are not here. Mr. Speaker, we may be here making speeches and trivializing a very grave matter. It took a desperate young man in Tunisia to burn himself to cause a big change in that country. Mr. Speaker, we are willing to come back, subject to the 3 days notice. We are willing to come back on Friday, on Saturday, on Sunday, any day, any hour. Mr. Speaker, the Constitution says this House can sit anywhere, anytime, any hour, as decided by this House for the interest of the country. I saw the other day, I listened with disbelief as senators tried to flaunt and flag curfew regulations and applying curfew on this House. Mr. Speaker, if this House is called to decide whether or not the President should deploy the Kenya Defense Forces in war to defend our country, this House can meet at 4 a.m. in the morning, any day, with curfew, without curfew. And Mr. Speaker, with due respect to the COVID protocols, there is no way this House can be treated as if we are coming here for disco, so that at 9 p.m., if you're in a disco, you go home. Mr. Speaker, Parliament of Kenya must face the executive head-on. The Parliament of Kenya must face the judiciary head-on. There is no way we are going to entertain any arm of government to run this institution. We will not allow it. We are not kidding. We are not playing games. Arrest us, kill us, torture us. We will not yield. Mr. Speaker, the kind of anger we have caused in this country, I dread, God forbid, is the kind of anger that made the citizens of Burkina Faso to burn down parliament. And when the president of Burkina Faso, that was 3 years ago, I'm not talking about prehistory. When the president of Burkina Faso had the parliament is in flames, he fled. His name is Blaise Compaoré. That's how he was voted out of office, by fire. Mr. Speaker, by fire, by force. Bring the senator of Kakamega, bring the senator of Samburu, and bring the senator of Bomet. Mr. Speaker, I move that this House adjourn until when our 3 colleagues will be here. Mr. Speaker, I don't want to belabor the point. I know the trick. Those who are peddling a dangerous formula of dividing revenue in this country are using. They think without these 3, they have 24 senators to pass this ugly formula. We will not allow it. Mr. Speaker, I have before me here a letter which you have received in your office 10 minutes ago from the senator of Kakamega, Cleophas Malala, saying nobody should try to vote in his place. And I'm going to table it. It's received in your office. We cannot come here and trivialize a serious constitutional institution like the Senate. We cannot. And Mr. Speaker, today, history is before you. Today, destiny is staring at you. As the Speaker, who will deliver this Senate from the bondage of malevolent and capricious men. I want to end, Mr. Speaker. You know, there are people, and I'm glad some of our colleagues who were opposed to, who were trying to peddle this formula, toned down, including my student, the senator for Muranga. He has toned down. Mr. Speaker, there are people who have not given up, and they are trivializing this matter. And they think they are very big. We are being treated to things like system and deep state and deep what. Mr. Speaker, history is replete with strong generals and powerful kings and monarchs who have been brought down by the power of the people. And Mr. Speaker, today I want to remind them of a man called Belshazzar, a man who God favored to be king in the book of Daniel. Instead of being grateful that God has honored you among so many millions of citizens to be their leader, he entertained a government that was so divisive, so oppressive, and he did a big party and called all the important men whose fathers and mothers were important people at that time. And the Bible says he made a feast. And he entertained them in that feast, and even went on to commit sacrilege by using the utensils that had been taken from the temple to commit and drink the drink of fornication using the vessels taken from the temple. Mr. Speaker, as they were enjoying, as they were making merry, as the deep state was celebrating, as the system was celebrating, suddenly, and I say suddenly, there is going to be a war in this country. There is going to be a writing on the wall. Mene, Tekel, and Presidency. We will not sit here to discuss anything until Senator Malala, Senator Lelegwe, and Senator Lagat are here. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move. I request Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr. to second.
Okay, order. Just like I did make a correction in the morning, let the order be read.
Read. Order number 2, motion, approval of the third basis for revenue allocation among the county governments.
Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr.
Mr. Speaker, when we left chamber, we drove to Senator Malala's residence. We found him there. There were 4 Subaru vehicles and numerous armed policemen, some in VX. Mr. Speaker, we proceeded to inquire, by virtue of our training and by virtue of the law, the reasons for the arrest of Senator Malala. There was no warrant of arrest. The officers said, call the DCI. We have just been given instructions. Mr. Speaker, on further inquiry, as to the circumstances that would lead to the suspicion, the arrest of Senator Malala, would you believe it, Speaker? The person in charge told us that Senator Malala is accused of having distributed Government of Kenya sanitizers in Mumias yesterday. And Speaker, I want to look into your eye because I'm addressing you. He was distributing sanitizers in Western Province. Yesterday, in Mumias in particular, yesterday, Senator Kasanga was in the press, our own senator, talking about COVID millionaires, people who have stolen masks, sanitizers to go and sell. Senator Malala was distributing sanitizers to widows. They misled us, Mr. Speaker, and this is very challenging because as lawyers, myself including Senator Omogeni, should not have let Senator Malala off. But we were told there's mischief in this chamber. So against our oath as lawyers, Mr. Speaker, we have come to address you. Against our oath, we have let Senator Malala, who was supposed to go to Nairobi, Nairobi area, is now on his way to Mumias. Mr. Speaker, it is you, and I'm looking at you. It is you, Mr. Speaker, who has been defied. And Mr. Speaker, if you cannot sit on that seat, this will be a good time to resign. I can sit there. Because this is a chamber of parliament. It is to an extent, Mr. Speaker, you have such powers that if there was a vacancy in the executive, Mr. Speaker, you could be a president. And for even a rumor, Mr. Speaker, that you're under pressure. I hear you're under pressure. Pressure from who? Did God call you? Did you speak to God this afternoon, Mr. Speaker? Who is pressurizing you?
It's good you said it's a rumor.
Yes.
Because I'm not under any pressure.
Mr. Speaker, if you are not under any pressure and nobody has called you, Mr. Speaker, this session must end now. Because if you gazetted a special sitting, Mr. Speaker, and somebody distributed sanitizers. And that is a misdemeanor. It's a misdemeanor to the extent, Mr. Speaker, we would have paid for a bond, would have finished this business, and Senator Malala would have been charged even if they wanted to take him to Somalia or Kakuma. Mr. Speaker, there has never been a day since your election that you are under trial. It's not us. We have done our bit. If you can issue a directive seated in your chair, and Mr. Speaker, somebody says he's on leave. Imagine what would happen, Mr. Speaker, if the car that is driving Senator Malala at high speed rolls somewhere in Naivasha. God forbid. Would the cabinet secretary be on leave also? The contempt that they are treating us, the contempt they treat people who are elected, Mr. Speaker, tells you, Mr. Speaker, that this country is on the brink. But let me just finish, because in my anger I might say something that might lead to things I don't want to say. This is what the 32nd president said, and I'm talking to the powers, because other than taking my life, you have nothing, no control over me. He said this in 1941. We too, born to freedom and believing in freedom, are willing to fight and maintain freedom. We and all others who believe deeply, as we should, would rather die on our feet than live on our knees. We will not live on our knees. If, Mr. Speaker, you even direct we proceed, there will be so much chaos in this floor, Mr. Speaker. There will be no action. You will have to call police to arrest all of us, because we cannot proceed, Mr. Speaker. It is chilling to think, Mr. Speaker, that we can proceed when our senators are being taken across the country on the highway by force with people carrying guns. Mr. Speaker, if there has been a violation of Parliament, Mr. Speaker.
What's your point of order, Senator Kajwang?
Mr. Speaker.
Order, Senator Murkomen.
Mr. Speaker, Senator Murkomen will not teach me how to prosecute my business here, because I was brought here by the people of Homa Bay. Mr. Speaker, I didn't want to disrupt Senator Mutula. I feel him and I hear him. Could you, Mr. Speaker, just advise him not to threaten chaos in the House? That would be the orderly way to proceed.
Senator Mutula.
Senator Kajwang is my friend. Senator Kajwang is famous for blowing whistles. He's the wrong person to advise Senator Mutula. Keep your cool, boy. The same person who blew whistles on the president is advising me about chaos? What are you talking about? Listen to wisdom and shut up and listen. This is not a laughing matter. The life of your colleagues is on the line. We could leave this chamber and allow you to pass whatever you want to pass. We walked out of this chamber. The election laws were passed. They were nullified by the court. What the hell do you think you guys are doing to us? It's not going to happen. We must speak as a Senate. And that means, Mr. Speaker, that Mr. Speaker enforce your direction. It's not us. You are not an inferior person to the cabinet secretary.
What's your point of order, Senator Matangi?
Mr. Speaker, equally too, I would absolutely not want to interrupt the flow of thought, and the wave of rising emotion that Senator Mutula Kilonzo is up to on this matter. All of us feel it, Mr. Speaker. My point of order, Mr. Speaker, there is only one speaker in this House, which is yourself.
Order, members.
And so, Senator Wambua,
make your point of order.
Cannot direct me, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my point of order is very simple,
Yeah.
Mr. Speaker. Is the senator for Makueni in order? When we left this house, we were united, Mr. Speaker, on the course of action to take. And you give directions. Now, why, Mr. Speaker, is the senator for Makueni saying, what are you trying to do to us? Who? We. And Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, Senator Kindiki spoke before I could raise a point of order. When Mr. Speaker...
Oh, wind up your point of order. Wind up.
Mr. Speaker...
Order, members. Order.
Mr. Speaker...
Senator Wamatangi, we did agree on how you prosecute your
Mr.
point
Speaker,
of order.
The question I'm asking, Mr. Speaker, which I'm pointing out which is out of order, is that it is wrong for Senator for Makueni to impute improper motive by whichever way, by telling this House and the country that there are senators here who have who are doing anything against them, Mr. Speaker. We are united in this matter, Mr. Speaker.
Okay.
And the threat of chaos, Mr. Speaker, will not sell either.
Okay. You have
Mr.
made
Speaker,
you have made your
won't.
point of order. Okay. Senator Mutula Kilonzo, continue.
Mr. Speaker, I was finishing my remark. And if I confuse Senator Wamatangi, I want to say that when I say we, I mean lots of people. I mean we. Mr. Speaker, a narrative has been planted in this House. The other day, Bishop Muller of AIC told me when the churches were closed, that when you close churches, the devil rules. After COVID, I think we allowed the devil to walk into this chamber. That devil is ruling this chamber. And that devil, Mr. Speaker, is the devil that says that you can pit 24 against 23 or 29. Three people, those are not 3 votes. Those are 3 senators. Mr. Speaker, 3 senators. One of them, the deputy of Senator James Orengo. This matter is, even if we sound emotional, Mr. Speaker, what I've seen today in front of my eyes, as we told the police, allow us to take Senator Malala to chamber and you will hand over to him to whatever you want. Blocked the road, and guess what, Mr. Speaker? They put handcuffs on the gate so that we don't leave. The estate was locked using handcuffs. Mr. Speaker, how sad can we get? Mr. Speaker, I support this motion, not because of anything, but Mr. Speaker, I cannot imagine sitting in this House to debate anything. Mr. Speaker, because Senator Malala is not just a voter. Senator Lelegwe is not just a voter. Senator Bomet is not just a voter in this House. They are elected senators, and they are human beings. If the government of Kenya is not human, just 2 senators, Mr. Speaker, I pity your role today. Thank you, Speaker.